Hi guys, so today I'm making a mayonnaise video and it was requested by Troble 316. Thank you for requesting it. I have to say I wasn't going to make it so soon, but I thought all of a sudden it's a very good video to do in light of it being Easter and I using eggs, Easter eggs and so on. So for anyone else who's requested a video and I haven't yet made it, I'm not sort of jumping the queue. It's just the reason that I've explained. That's why I'm making this one so soon. Anyway, I'm using organic eggs, and when I make homemade mayonnaise, of course, I always buy organic eggs. I would usually eat free-range eggs, but for the homemade mayonnaise, I will always get organic eggs. Not to say that the free-range eggs isn't as good. So I also need garlic and onion and salt and oil, malt, vinegar and black pepper. Now I have a lot of things to show you on the table, but as you can see, this group here, this is what I use. When I was growing up, my mum made homemade mayonnaise all the time, and she'd make it for family members and friends as well. And this is what she would use to make it. So I've just developed a taste for it, and I always prefer this method. So that's why I'm using it. Although I have to say, she would always use just basic cooking oil, which would be sunflower or vegetable oil. I am shying away from vegetable oil recently. I've always actually been more of a sunflower oil person rather than the vegetable oil. I'd only buy it if for some reason that I couldn't buy the other. Anyway, I'm using the blend here, and you can see it's 15% extra virgin olive oil and 85% sunflower oil. This is from M&S, but all other supermarkets I'm sure would also have their own blends. But I really like this. You also want to be picky with the oil that you use, because when you make the mayonnaise, the oil does come through with the taste, and it will sort of mellow, say, the next day, because ideally you would refrigerate it for 24 hours before eating it. That just allowed the vinegar to sort of kill any bacteria in the egg, and I think it generally tastes better anyway the next day. So I'll show you two ways of making it, but I'm guessing I probably don't even need to. I'm sure you trust me that you can make it with just an electric whisk or even a hand whisk, although I wouldn't do that, I'd be so tired. In a bowl, and also a food processor that you do have. Now I'm more of a fan of the hand whisk and the glass bowl, because sometimes I can get the children involved, and I'll show you how they sort of participate in it. Okay, now moving on here, these are other things that you might want to add to your mayonnaise. Let's start with the containers. I think it's always preferably to use a glass container and rather than a plastic one. I can't really give you more reasons, but I just prefer using a glass container. You can add parsley to your mayonnaise. I would always use dry parsley as to the fresh one. The fresh one would have a tendency of slightly coloring it, and the taste will just be a bit more harsher. So, but it's your choice. Also, believe it or not, some people don't like black pepper. Absolutely fine to use white pepper. And I wanted to show you this, not for the mayonnaise, but just, it's a brand that I've just recently started buying, and I really like it. I mean, who would have thought that you would actually like salt? But there's just something about it that I quite like. It says it's organic, and yeah, one or two other mentions about all the process that's gone through it and everything. So it's not really focusing. Okay, moving on again with the oil. I mean, if you really like olive oil, you can go ahead and use olive oil. But as I did already say, the taste does really come through. So do be careful, but it's up to you. And I did already mention you can use just basic sunflower oil and rapeseed oil. And try and buy a really good one. Like this one is cold pressed, and so meaning it's virtually organic in terms of not the growing but the processing, so that's really good. And although I'm not using it, it's nearly Easter, so I'll be doing a lot of cooking. That's why there's so many things going on here. And this is the spirit vinegar that you would expect most people to use. I don't know if people really just use this because of the color. That think the malt vinegar, the brown one, would sort of color it. I don't. When I use this, I find it's very harsh. It almost tastes to me like a foreign mayonnaise, like from another country. I particularly don't like the spirit vinegar with the mayonnaise, so I don't use it. And other people would use maybe a white wine vinegar. It's up to you. Or cider vinegar. Again, it's up to you. So something like this. Oh dear, one of the things I'm showing you is on the floor now. So when we're doing it in the bowl, I would recommend that you have something to sort of prop it up, because I tend to make only one egg at a time. Don't watch the date on the carton and think I can use this mayonnaise up until the date. I think it's very different when you're making mayonnaise. I wouldn't keep mayonnaise longer than a week in the fridge, and so I would tend to make one at a time, and because the bowl is quite large, I would sort of prop it up, as I've said. And yeah, so if the children were helping me, let me just pick that other thing up. Okay, so if they were helping me, these are the bottles that I would sort of put oil in. This is just random, they just use that for school. This is the one we mainly use. I'd put oil here, so one child would be holding the electric whisk and the other would have the job of putting the oil in, because you want to put the oil in slowly but continuously. Yeah, so you can use any bottle really. Okay, so it's already 7 minutes and I haven't even started. I'm sorry, you already know how my videos go. But now we'll start first of all by pickling the onion and the garlic. So I have half an onion there, it's just a tiny one, and one whole clove of garlic. And I'm going to put the vinegar in the cup or the lid. And this is how I measure how much vinegar I want to use. The vinegar, of course, is up to you. And because they're extra large eggs, and I'm making 2 eggs, one in each machine, I'll go for 3, perhaps 4. I'll stop at 3, and we might add one more later on. As you can see, I've separated the garlic and the onion. That's because you don't want to put the onion in the food processor. But the garlic, you would want to put it in earlier, because you'll hope that it'll mince it. And yeah, the onion goes in last. It's just to blend it. How long do you want to pickle this for? It doesn't really matter. I'd say give it minimum 10 minutes. And yeah, so I've covered it just to help it pickle a lot quicker. And you are going to need some sort of tool to help you keep scraping it down, because that is very vital that you keep doing that repeatedly. Also, 316, you did mention something about it being spicy, and I already did mention about the black pepper. You can add any spice that you want. In the supermarkets now, you see all sorts of mayonnaise, curry, lemon. Oh, I didn't even show you mustard. I'll put it on the table, but I don't use mustard. But you can put mustard in your mayonnaise as well. Yeah, so which I think a lot of people go for, definitely, but I just don't do it. And again, whenever I make certain things at home, I have to always think of the kids, because you don't want to put too many things in it, otherwise I'll just be the one eating it. So I'm just going to get the things ready in the food processor. That's the garlic, so you just want to add the vinegar as well. So I would add about a lid. Try and not put the onion in, because when it's blended it's really not nice. And I've just put a chunk in there. Now Now you want to close the lid of the oil, but put your hand on it so you will sort of gauge how much you're putting in, and you just don't have a whole lot going. I would say about 300 mils probably. Yeah, about 300 mils for this one extra large oil. Okay, so we start now. And I start off with a low spin or medium high, and then afterwards in the middle, then I go for very high. So at halfway through, you just want to now start putting it down. I mean with the spatula, so. So up until halfway, you don't really need to be using the spatula because it's very liquidy and it comes down by itself. But as it gets thicker, that's when you really need to regularly open it up. But you need to do this very quickly because you don't want to be letting it stand for too long. As you can see, it's getting a lot thicker, and you just want to make, because there's oil also trapped in between those bits, and you want to make sure they come back down. I mean, again, depending on how big your blender is and how many eggs you're making. For mine, it's so irritating. I really don't like this food processor. It annoys me. That's why I cut up my onions a lot. Now at this point, by the way, I was just talking, so I haven't done anything else. I just scraped it down. You can say, okay, I don't want any more oil. I'm happy with this, and it's really up to you. Personally, I would be adding more oil. I'll go for exactly what I told you, about 300 mils. So how much have I used now? I'd say about 180, 190 mils. And what did I want to say? Oh, okay, you can taste right now and think, for instance, if you are not going to do the onion, because there'll be some vinegar within the onion, so I wouldn't personally add more here. I've just tasted it and it's fine. But if you weren't, you can taste it right now and add the vinegar here. It's better to add and then carry on rather than do it right at the end, because you would have had the perfect consistency and then you wouldn't want to basically water it down anymore by anything else. And yeah, that's about it. So I'm just going to continue blending. Oh, also, you can also put up the speed. Not at your highest, because some of you have those powerful food processors, but you can put it up slightly. Okay, so I've added my final drizzle of oil, and I just decided actually just to go with half so I can show you the other one on using the electric whisk. Right, so what I wanted to say is when you add your final one, give it a few minutes to blend. By the way, how long does mayonnaise take to make? I would say about, well, it takes me about 30 minutes to make just the one egg. And I'm not talking about the prep, I'm talking about it actually mixing. So yeah, so now that I've given it a few minutes, I'm just going to use the spatula and make sure all these bits are down, and then after one more minute or so, it's fine. Can you see how thick it is? Right. And in light of talking about how long it takes, I think that's when some people sort of give up and think, oh, it didn't work for me. You just were too impatient. In the beginning, it gets watery. I would say around about 10 minutes, even 15 minutes it might take to actually start getting thick. And people just think, oh, I've ruined it. If you think it takes any less of a time, I don't know what equipment you have using, but you should recommend it to everyone. And what I will say, yeah, I've said that already. It gets very watery. As you can see, I didn't put the lid back on because I want to avoid as much mess as possible. So I just use my hand like that, and then I'd be pouring the oil in through there. But as it gets thicker, you no longer need it because it cannot spit out all the way to the top. Well, unless you are making too much. I just have the one egg. So it's done. I just want to now transfer it to the jar. I've gone for a smaller jar. Guess what I just realized? I didn't put the onion in. I can't believe it. But we don't do any of that false editing here. I am not going to do that. So I will just take the onion I want and mix it in there. And that's it. This is going to be in the fridge. As I've said, you eat it tomorrow. Ideally, that's what I do. And don't worry on Troble 316. I already have all the tools we need to eat it with. Okay, yeah, so I'm just going to pick some onions and put it in there and mix it. That's what I would have done anyway. I did tell you that you don't want to blitz the onion at all because that will not give it a good taste. Now, I'm sure you already know, be very careful with tasting. If you've already dipped in your clean finger in there, don't dip it again because the saliva will turn it off. And yeah, even a spoon or whatever else, make sure it's always a fresh one that you put in there if it's gone in your mouth. I suppose I should have shown you lemon as well, along with the other vinegars. Some people would choose to mix it or just put it by itself. Okay, so the vinegar is in there. I'm just going to mix it and I'll be keeping this in the fridge for tomorrow. And then we'll be moving on to this one. Okay, so now we do the one with the electric whisk and everything is the same. So I'm not adding the garlic because the garlic's all mixed up with the onions and I don't want to be fishing it out. It's fine, I'll just add it later when we add the onions. So now we just go ahead and whisk. Okay, so I'm happy where we are at now, and I've actually just stopped short of this. So I would guess I used about 230, 240 mils for each egg. And okay, so now I'm just going to add the onions. And also earlier on when I was talking about the vinegar killing all the bacteria for the 24 hours, I don't mean that if you eat this mayonnaise today something will be wrong. Nothing at all. It's fine. Of course, you even have to taste it. And that's enough mixing. This is not a blade, so the onions won't be bruised at all. Right, so you can taste it. It just tastes much better tomorrow. Also, your mayonnaise will always firm up a bit more tomorrow when it's colder. I think you find that even with store-bought mayonnaise, if you just buy it from the store, it's stiff, but it's much stiffer when you put it in the fridge. Also, don't forget those mayonnaise have a lot of preservatives and all other things added to it. I'm sure even corn flour and everything. But this tomorrow you'll see anyway. Yeah, so that's about it. I'll just jar this up and I'll see you tomorrow. Hi guys, so we're getting ready to have our mayonnaise, and I have smoked salmon trimmings and I have curly lettuce and the baguette. The oven's been heating up and I'm just going to put it. Should take about 10 minutes as it says on the packet. Now I chose this bread because I'm trying to go the Gambian way today. There's a bread in Gambia known as tapalapa, and people look down upon it because it's known as a poor man's bread. That's generally what any other country would call most things that are filling and cheap. And yeah, so it's cheap and it's a very heavy bread because in Gambia we eat baguettes and they have that one as well. So I don't know if that makes sense. And okay, the lettuce as well, they do have a lettuce very similar to this one, and it's more widely seen or known. So we're all done, the bread is ready, but before that I just wanted to show you the jars. So this is the one we made second using the electric whisk, and this is the first one using the food processor, and I made an extra one. I'm just giving that away. Whenever I make things like this, I always want to share it with someone. So, and it's in a plastic jar because I'm transporting it. I don't want any accidents. So these were made with the oil blend. You can see the color. And this one I added rapeseed oil, and it's nice, it's yummy. This one just reminds me of my childhood, that's why I'd always make it, but this is nice as well. So I'll take it there. But the thickness, well, perhaps it depends on the oil. I don't really experiment with oils, but it should be in the taste. Don't worry about how thick it is. I shouldn't have done this. I'm giving this to someone. I can't believe I just did that. Now I'm going to have to tell them to watch this video before they think I've been eating it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed Easter. Thank you.